Control and coordination in plants takes place with the help of chemicals, and the second one is movement. So when you take movement, the movement can be dependent and the movement can be independent. So if it is dependent, you call this as tropism. And if it is independent, you call it as nasties. So these are called tropism or trophic movements. And these are called nasties or nasty movement. So let us see a few illustrations from the garden and we'll be back to the class.
How do you think these plants stand erect? How do you think these plants stand erect? With the help of? Did you guess? Okay. The next. Let us observe few things around us. So I'm pouring water to these plants. What do you see, children? Did you see the water anymore? I'm pouring water. Can you find the water? No. Can you see these plants, children? They are not standing erect. They are climbing over other plants. Can you see here? They are twisted and turned here. Can you see these structures getting attached to it? And you can find branches here. You can find branches. Right? How do you get flowers throughout, children? You can find buds and these buds bloom later. So how do you get this? Any idea of all these scenarios?
So you saw different condition like I poured water to a plant and you find the water absorbing. Then you found the plant standing erect. And few plants you saw it is crawling and it is growing over other plants. And you also saw certain branches in each plant. And one more condition was the bud, which later blooms into a flower. Why are these happening, children? We know hormones play a major role in cell division, making a flower bloom, dormancy, elongation, and all. One more thing is movement that plays a major role. The first is some movement are dependent, which means it totally relies on any external factors or any environmental factors. Say, for example, when you pour water to a plant, you find the water is absorbed. So, which is absorbing? The roots. So, there is a movement towards the water. Can you understand? So, you have you can see plant exhibiting certain movements towards certain environmental factors. So, those are called tropism or trophic movements. And in some plants, you can find the movement independent, which means it doesn't have any environmental factor, but the plant exhibits certain, and you cannot guess such movements. So, those kind of movements are nasties. Say, for example, you can find some flowers blooming only at night. Some flowers bloom only in the morning, and you can find certain flowers changing its color. Morning, you can find the presence of light, you can find the plant in one color, and in the absence, you can find the plant in other color. So, these are certain unconditional changes that takes place in plant, which comes under nasties. So, first we'll go with tropism or trophic movements. So, we'll start with trophic movements. Just imagine a plant. Just a plant. And you pour water to these plants. So what will happen when you pour water to the plant? You will find the root uptaking. So the root absorbs water. So here, which acts as the environmental factor? The water. So the root, you can find the movement towards water. You can find the root absorbing water. So the movement towards water, you call that as hydrotropism. So you call that as hydrotropism. Hydro meaning water. Okay. And you can find, I asked you a question, how do these plants stand erect? So how do a plant stand erect, children? It is all because of the root that fixes firmly into the soil. So the root fixes firmly into the soil. So that you call it as geotropism. So you call that as geotropism. Geo meaning gravity. So just because of gravity, you can find the plant standing erect and they fix firmly onto the soil. The third condition, I asked you to find certain branches. So why do we get branches in plants? You find different branches in trees. Why do we get that? Say for example, initially you sow a seed, you can find a sapling grow. And later when this plant grows, you can find they leave different branches. So why do you get the branch? Because when the light falls on, so the plant has the affinity towards sunlight. So when the light falls on, you see the plant moving towards the sunlight. So when the sun moves, you can find the branches developing on the other side too. Okay, so there is a movement towards light, which is called as phototropism. So you call this as phototropism. So hydrotropism towards water, geotropism towards gravity, phototropism towards light. Next I showed you flowers, buds. So that buds develop into a new flower. So you found the buds all over the flower. How do you get that buds all over? It is all because of the chemicals. See, like in male, we have in flowers too. Sorry, like in human, we also have genders, the male and the female in case of plants too. So these produces certain chemicals that you will read in the upcoming chapter. So the movement of chemicals from one flower to the other. So movement towards chemical, you call that as chemotropism. So the fourth is towards chemicals. So you call that as chemotropism. And the last, I showed you a plant which did not stand erect and it was twisting and turning over the other. So this plant is a weak stem plant which doesn't have a proper stem. So they climb on other. When they climb, they require an external support of touch. So the movement is towards touch. So you call this as thigmotropism. So thigmo meaning touch. So all these movements are dependent, which means they are dependent towards some environmental factors like water, soil, chemicals, light as well as touch. So these are called trophic movements or tropism. Any doubts you have, children? And again, this is an important question can be asked in board. Sometimes they can ask you the type of tropism or how do they exhibit tropism in plants. And one more thing you need to know about is the positive and the negative tropism. So let us see that. So just imagine a potted plant. You find roots and you find a plant growing. Okay. So in this condition, the plant is moving towards the light. Okay. And the root is moving towards gravity. So normally a root grows down and you find a shoot growing up, right? So when the root is facing down, you call this as positive geotropism. Positive geotropism. and negatively phototropism. Why negatively phototropism? Because they are totally away from light. Can you understand the positive and negative? And whereas when you take the shoot, it moves towards light. So the plant moves towards light. So you call that as positively phototropism. So you call this as positively phototropism. And they are negatively geotropism. Why? Because the root will always grow upward. It doesn't grow down. Okay, so it is negatively geotropism. So again, this can be asked in board, especially in 1 mark or in case-based studies. So they can give you a picture like this and they'll ask you to find what kind of tropism do they exhibit, positive or negative tropism. So you need to think, if the root is growing down, it is positively geotropism. And they do not grow towards light. So they are negatively phototropism. And similarly, the shoot will grow towards the light, so they are positively phototropism. And they do not grow down, so they are negatively geotropism. Any doubts, children? Yes. Next, we'll get into nasties. So nasties are independent movement that is exhibited by the plant. So let us see a plant which I was searching for a long time and finally I got it. So I hope you get excited seeing that plant.